While Vermintide's crafting system was no saint or angel, we can all agree that that system is way better than what we currently have for Darktide, and after reading about their previous crafting system that they ripped out mid-development to replace with this one that they claim is way better than the one that they ripped out, I really don't want to know what that previous system was like. Regardless, the current iteration of crafting isn't great, but it's actually not that far off from being good. Here are my 5 suggestions for the current crafting system that would both greatly improve the user experience and significantly reduce the RNG frustrations, while also being reasonable enough for Fatshark to actually change in the first place. The first and most obvious suggestion is to remove the perk and blessing locks. No matter which way you try to look at it, they serve as an arbitrary time sink to block players from obtaining perfect weapon rolls too quickly and do nothing to actually improve the system for the better. The other issue that these locks introduce is that they can ruin certain weapons if you happen to roll a blessing on a weapon that actively opposes one another. This was a big issue we saw before the recent buff of Limb Splitter, as all weapons that had rolled that blessing of any level was rendered useless no matter how good the weapon was otherwise. Second, increase the minimum modifier level that can be obtained from both the armory and Melk's shop. This has already been done once, but the minimum needs to be raised again to ensure that people don't get worthless weapons. While it is funny to get a weapon like this, it should not be possible once you reach the maximum level for a character, as it's simply a waste of time. Due to Melk being more of a premium version of the general armory, the minimum for Melk's shop should be higher than the armory, although it should still be possible to occasionally find the highest level gear within the armory itself. A minimum modifier level of 330 for the armory and 360 for Melk's shop would ensure that useless weapon rolls are kept to the absolute minimum and would result in an overall decrease in wasted time. Third, allow us to directly choose the perks we want on weapons and curios instead of rolling for them. To be fair to Fatshark, this is a leftover issue from their original crafting system that they changed due to player feedback. Originally, the cost of rerolling perks would go up every time you rerolled them on a weapon rather than down, and with a system like that, it would make sense to make the users reroll instead of directly picking their perks. However, they thankfully decided to listen to everybody and cut the increase in cost, so this archaic mechanic needs to go and be replaced with a more modernized one. If this change is made, then less useful perks like plus experience and plus ordo dockets wouldn't need to be removed from the perk pool, since they wouldn't completely ruin otherwise good curios, as they'd still be usable by the small amount of players who could actually make use of them. Plus curio chance, though, is just a baffling perk. That one can go. Fourth, allow us alternate ways to permanently unlock blessings for the purpose of re-blessing. Even with blessings being shared across characters on the same weapons, the grind for blessings is still way too steep and will take hundreds upon hundreds of hours to simply grind everything out. Not to mention the Ogren gets completely shafted since he shares no weapons with any other characters, forcing you to grind him separately. A great way to do this would be to allow us to obtain both blessings on a weapon when we surrender them to Hadron instead of only gaining one of them, as well as bringing back the combined blessings feature that they scrapped. I don't know why they scrapped this feature, as it's actually a fantastic idea that would give a safety net to people who get screwed by RNG, and bringing that mechanic back alone would go miles to reduce the blessing grind. The addition of both of these features would drastically reduce the blessing grind and allow people to quickly get to the point where they feel free enough to experiment with different kinds of builds. Finally, allow us to directly obtain god-rolled weapons without having to rely on RNG being nice to us. One way that they could go about it is letting us spend materials to directly upgrade weapons themselves so that the modifiers can all reach their maximum values, but I would argue the more favorable way is to just bring back veteran weapons from Vermintide. For those unfamiliar, veteran weapons were the highest tier of weapon you could find and would always come accompanied with a special kind of skin to mark their rareness. More importantly though was the fact that all of their property values, or in Darktide talk, perk values, were always at the maximum possible value instead of being random. Adding in a type of weapon that would always roll tier 4 blessings and perks would add a more desirable endgame gear progression system for players that would give them something rewarding to work towards. Combine this with the removal of weapon locks, and once you obtain a veteran weapon on a character, you will never need to worry about grinding for that weapon again, as you will always have the best possible version of it unlocked and would be freely able to change the perks and blessings on it for a different build. People do not play the Tide games for the gear progression systems. They play for the gameplay, characterization, and world building, so there should be no need to attempt to arbitrarily increase the loot grind in an effort to get people to stay. With these changes, I believe the loot progression and crafting system would be rid of all of its main issues and would allow for an overall smoother and less frustrating gameplay experience. Thanks for watching, and thanks to this month's Patreons for their continued support. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Darktide content in the future. See y'all next time.